and welcome to the Here and Now Human podcast. I'm your host, Manuela Welton, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. Today, I want to talk about the fear of death being death itself. And lately, in the last 3 months, I have navigated and traversed an internal death, which felt like a physical death or a fear of dying, almost like I had to process it in my body at a rate that made me understand how afraid I was of dying. And that fear of death was preventing me from really doing a lot of things that I wanted to do, including this podcast. When I realized that I was actually afraid of dying and that was impeding me of really committing to relationships, committing to friendships, showing up in a different way, I understood that when I face death, which I have from a very young age, when I faced death in my own life, I realized fear of death was what was stopping me from creating so much in my life. So I ask you, where are you afraid of dying? And are you afraid of dying physically, or are you afraid of dying metaphorically? Death can be a form of, I think partly we don't talk about death in our society because we're afraid of it. And we're afraid of touching taboo subjects that are perhaps a bit too much to feel, understand, and really decompose. Now, what if we actually took the time to die and feel what it feels like to die, and then see what ways we are not living our life, whether it's calling somebody, launching a project, living your dream, living your vision. We don't know how much time we have in life, and it's part of the mystery that we all connect to. And then often, most of the times, I see and feel people living in patterns or living in loops of patterns in life where they don't actually even see that it's a loop. And then they can let go of it and really step into perhaps something like the unknown, which, as shared in one of the podcast episodes with Ezzy, it's one of our biggest fears. So, what would it look like? What would it feel like to actually let go of the fear of dying? And what would you do differently? I had an experience where I was being born, dying, being born, dying again, being born in my body, where I was experiencing physically what it was like to be born and die at the same time. Life is but an instant, and we're not really fully connected to the deeper layers of what this life is. Often I feel what is beyond this experience of physical reality. I think a lot of us are afraid of that and are afraid to tune into what is available outside of this physical experience of our bodies, of each other, of things. I wonder if we saw and if we looked at life a little bit deeper, both spiritually and metaphysically, and what would happen if we actually connected to what is outside of the material world. We would find that there's different layers and different things that we can connect to, not so much in spirit. I think a lot of people are connecting what I'm saying perhaps with something outside of ourselves, but it goes as far as connecting with the earth and our feet into earth and kind of feeling and intuiting and connecting to the energy that comes from our feet when it connects to the soil and it connects to the planet. What else can we feel other than just this experience? Being initiated to death at a very young age through family members, but both of my parents, losing my parents so young, I notice where things are very impermanent very quickly. The life that you have right now, look around you. It's not going to be the same in a couple hours, and it's not going to be the same tomorrow. We can change, shift, and create at all times in our life. A lot of me was living in survival and running and going and moving as fast as I could in order to be safe. That was a protection mechanism that I actually learned from ancestry. Then it got passed down, and then I felt it in my body. And then when my parents died, I kept going as if I was surviving versus really like being in my own experience of life. And just recently, I actually was able to let go of that need to survive and give enough space in my body for it to live. So I ask you, what parts and where are you actually needing to survive? And how do you let go of the survival in order to create more space and more room for you to be you here in this time, in this life? I know a lot of us don't have that possibility. And I know that it is difficult to think about because we're constantly just needing to make ends meet. And also, we're not shown healthy ways in which we can actually create a place where we're safe. A lot of what I dealt with in my earlier years growing up was a very like a level of safety that wasn't safe. And this was because, we flew and fled Colombia very early on. And my father speaking truth and, or his truth in a country that didn't really accept it. It created a fear of being myself and being my authentic self. And so, therefore, just I was afraid to speak. And here I am trying to break that and be myself in a time where it can be a bit daunting to be yourself because there's so many truths and so many opinions running and fleeing. So constantly, how do you attune more and more to your truth, even though it might not be somebody else's truth? I know we did an episode on truth, and I'm headed there again. But it's how do we, this one is more about how do we let go of the fear of being more authentic to ourselves, even though it might not look like most people, or even it might not look like it you want other people to see it, or perhaps the need of approval. A lot of the need of approval for me was a level of safety that I didn't have in my own body. And perhaps it was not really fully seeing myself fully. I don't even know if I really fully see myself now, but at least I have more of an understanding of all the life experiences that I've had up until this point to create who I am today and to be able to share it with you. And I don't have all the answers, and I don't have many answers other than just continuing to experience every single day and every moment of my life as present as I can, understanding and feeling into what it is to be alive every moment of the day. It could all end tomorrow, but at least I knew that I did what I wanted to do at the times that I wanted to do. I pushed myself and I excelled, and I really tuned into the most uncomfortable parts of myself to be able to create what I wanted to create. But there's more, and there's always more, and there's always fear. With each expansion, there's a level of death that comes, and it's a metaphorical death. It's a fear of expanding, and it's a fear of the unknown, and it's a fear of holding what we're capable of holding. Often we're so afraid to really full the capacity and the expansion that we can hold for ourselves. And then often that fear turns into judgment in some form, shape. Judgment of another or jealousy often shares and tells you where you want to expand in your own life. I learned that one very, very early on in my life. I was a very jealous child growing up, and I knew that that jealousy was only telling me where I wanted to expand, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to learn. So it's through that envy and that judgment that we often protect ourselves from expanding and wanting to actually create and expand what we want to create and expand. I think often I think we're seeing, and perhaps we're seeing, I don't, I'm experiencing people experiencing death a lot more, in actual physical death, death of loved ones, and death of nations, and death of transformations. And there's a lot of grief in the collective currently, and this is, you know, probably going to launch at a later time. But currently, when we're filming this, there's a lot of grief in the collective. And I get asked a lot the question, how do you deal with grief? How do you grieve properly? And I think it's knowing that grief is wavy, and that it can be it can be never ending. There will always be waves of grief coming through. If you're dealing with the grief of a loved one, from my experience, there's always waves. So it's, you'll go through shock and freeze, and then you'll come back into the deep sadness and anger, and then let go of the anger and come back to shock and freeze, and then deep waves of sadness and anger. And then there'll be layers and layers and layers, because I think part of it is the experience is showing you deeper and deeper and deeper parts of yourself, no matter what age you are, no matter how long you've been with this person. If it's a parent, the grief you can experience as a child is very different than the grief you can experience as an older person. I think some of my most favorite work is hospice work, because you learn so much about the fragility of life. And often what people share at the end of their lives, no matter what age, is how they could have done it differently. But I also trust that if we look at every moment in our lives and we feel it in our hearts and we feel it in our bodies, then you just understand the perfection of every moment and how each moment taught you something different. It's not about regret or how I could have done things differently, but it's about how each moment brought you to this moment, and how we can actually let go of expectation and perfectionism, regret, remorse, and really live every moment as present as we can. One of the things that I've learned most in this work, and that work that I love, is just the importance of being present in everything that you do. If you're present, there will be no regret. And you can really be healing. I think of a dear friend / mentor, Bobby, and what his mentor says, that presence heals. And it does. How you can really be present, not only to yourself, but to the person that you're in front. It's a really powerful tool. So I invite you, from hearing this, to really hold level of presence, and not just in your body and in yourself, but then like being with someone. How often do you think of something else or reach for your phone rather than actually really feel and be with that person? Partly, sometimes often when I know that somebody's not listening to me is when I'm saying something and the person is, that, I know that they're not actually listening. So it's when you're actually tuning and attuning and deeply listening to someone, you're just feeling their hearts and really with them, creating the space to listen to them and really listen to what they're sharing. We're in a year 9, and the year of snake. 9 is completion. 9 is letting go. 9 is in some form of 9 is death. And the year of the snake is shedding all the skins. What are you shedding? What are you needing to shed? Transformation, releasing, letting go, completion, 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 completion. What are you needing to let go in order for you to continue to expand and grow into who you are here to be? What are you needing? Who are you needing to let go of? You are matched by the energy that you surround yourself. So what are the people that are around you telling you about you? It is an incredible opportunity to expand and become more of who you are. It is an incredible opportunity and invitation to get to know more of who you are and who you want to be. and to continue releasing not only patterns, old belief systems, things, actual things, let go of your things. I remember when my parents died, I inherited about 92 boxes of things, and then I just decided that I needed nothing at the very young age of 18 and 19. Often, really letting go of every physical thing that I have in order to be more minimalistic, because the less physical objects I have, the more mobile and free I can be. We'll have to do an episode on freedom. Maybe that's next. What it means for me, what it can mean for you. I believe that in order to be free, we have to die over and over and over again. So part of being free is to be okay with the unknown, to let go and release of expectations and needs, and really allow yourself to surrender to what is available for you.
One thing that came up while you were talking was grieving the loved one, but then how you can also, what does that look like when you're grieving old parts of you, even if it was like a long time ago? Like you would think like, okay, I translated that. That was good. Like I feel you like this new version, but even how years later, like I stopped drinking and don't want to drink, but how sometimes I'm like, oh, I just wish I could drink, obviously. And is that like me grieving that version of myself, like craving it?
Well, I ask you, why did you stop drinking? And I'm curious, if you give yourself that space to drink again, what would come up? I'm not saying that you should, but it's just that, like,
Will it come up? I think I might just lose that control again.
bingo. Control. The idea of losing control and losing our minds and letting it go, right? I think that's a huge part of death. Actually, if we talk about it, the loss of control and the fear of loss of control. What happens if we lose control? You actually said it, right? I'm crazy. What would people think? What would society think? What would my neighbors think? What would my family think? What would I think about myself? What if I actually completely let go of control and became crazy for a moment? Like literally, I could just feel that in my body as I'm saying it. That is like one of the strongest human fears that we have, is to lose control. Like, and imagine how losing control could actually connect us to our full freedom, because part of the fear of losing control is probably connected to the fear of being judged, because you're judging yourself and you're judging everybody around you. But imagine if you lost control and lost everything. Like, how would that actually translate into who you are, and like what is actually innately in you, inside of you? What would that mean for you? Have you ever considered losing control? I've had an experience. I just had it not long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I thought I was losing my mind. And that's a death. That's a as you shared, like that's a death of a part of you that was once, that no longer is. And I think you often can see actually people walking around with you can see people controlling everything. There are certain people in the planet that need to control everything around them in order for it to be safe. Control is safety. And if we let go of that safety, what it actually shows us is that there's a level of chaos in our body or outside of ourselves that we're out of control, because nothing. Actually, imagine if we actually are not in control of anything. What if we weren't in control of anything? Like, we aren't. We're not in control of how long we live. We're not in control of what happens next. So I think that people hold on to levels of control for themselves because that's all we can manipulate into understanding and knowing. I love the idea of what you shared about, deaths of parts of ourselves. I currently am going through a big death again. around maiden into mother. It's been one of the hardest transitions of my life, especially because I feel like if you don't really fully live one of the parts of you, one part of your life, it's harder to actually enter the next. And as I shared earlier, it's like I've been so much on survival mode that I never gave myself fully the space to be in my maiden and in my adolescence. And so it's been harder for me to actually step into a mature version of myself because I was so hard on myself for being adolescent. So that's why, like, we talk about drinking, right? Like, and I wonder, there's a part of you that's like, what if I drank again? Like, am I just missing who I was before? And I wonder, it's like, is it just the fact that you didn't give yourself full permission to be and enjoy and be in that part of your life? Were you judging yourself? Were you being hard on yourself? And now you're in this point where, like, it's back to that episode where we're not giving that part of you an opportunity to live again. Almost like imagine if you gave yourself that space to live again. Like, don't you think it'd be different? Like, you have a whole different awareness of who you are. Like, wouldn't that be different? I mean, I told you, I think we shared like a few episodes ago. I didn't, I stopped drinking coffee, and it's been 2 years now, almost, or 1 year and a half, almost close to 2. Anyway, I drank coffee the other day and I thought the same. I was like, I'm gonna go crazy. It's gonna be no. And it was like, oh, I actually enjoyed it. And it was just one coffee, And so it's like, I didn't give myself the opportunity to relive that experience because of a past experience versus just like forgiving yourself for not knowing what you didn't know and letting go and then trying to experience it again. Integration, so key and something that a lot of us are missing. I think that there's a lot, it's like talking about integration, there's a lot of us going from next to next to next to next to next to next. And then we're truly missing such a key component of life, which is integrating it and really allowing it to live in us. Yeah, it's a beautiful word. Lately, I've been doing a bit of a study of words, thinking about the word harmony, like how beautiful that word is, like the balance of everything. Integration is another one where it's like, wow, you can really feel each part integrating into your body. I think that one is a lot of time and patience and allowing every experience to really like integrate and be in your body and feeling that and connecting that. A lot of this work currently is in the body, not outside of the body. How can we continue to really come into the body versus outside of the body? So take this as an invitation to think of ways in which, what are you dreaming of? What are you wanting? What are you creating and co-creating with the planet, with the universe, with the people in it? I know for most, these are very powerful, probably maybe some difficult times. And in the moments of vast transformation and feeling, how can you create and give yourself space to really like be within all of that energy? How can you give more space to yourself? How can you walk more gently and more compassionate? And how can you be kinder to yourself, both with words, actions, and an invitation to see perhaps where the fear of death might be death itself, and where are you not really fully showing up in what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting to do? How do you really take that next step? So I hope you share with me in the comments, and I hope to hear from you. What are ways that you're showing up a little bit more these times, whether it's self-care, whether it's care for another, being more present with one another, being more present with yourself, with your heart, and or really showing up for your dreams, knowing that, I was just talking here. We were just talking, we were just sharing, knowing that they're going to take time. Dreams take time, visions take time. So being patient is really, really important. Often we think of something and we envision something and we want it immediate results because we live in an immediate time. But what if we actually tended to the seeds, watered the garden, let the vegetables grow, and really watched everything that we're doing grow with patience and love and care? So share with me what you're working on. I would love to hear. And thank you for taking the time to listen to this. It's a deep honor to be able to share from my heart with my heart to you and really just show up authentically with my thoughts, my mind, my heart, my body. I love this work and I love being in front of this microphone, sharing really, truly everything that I've experienced and I'm experiencing, and bringing on people that have really impacted my life in some way, and weaving that together and being able to just share what I know from my life experience. So thank you again for taking the time to listen. Lots of love to you all, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next time.